Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to the Fuck Calories podcast. I'm Dr. Sarah.
I'm Dr. Soleil. Hey, y'all.
Hello and welcome. We are about rounding off June Pride Month, and the interesting thing is, I live in San Diego, and San Diego, which has a very large Pride contingent, actually celebrates their Pride every year in July.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's because they wanted to be a part of all the other prides, but didn't want it to like interfere. So anyway, we are just now getting started.
Oh, that's
Um,
fun.
yeah, I don't know if I've mentioned that I live in San Diego yet on the podcast, but surprise.
Now everyone can stalk you.
Exactly.
Luckily, it's a
Um,
massive city, so
Exactly, exactly. And I know I've talked about being SoCal before, but I feel like everyone else is winding down and we're just finally getting started. So anyway, excited about that. But anyway, unrelated, we have been talking about muscle strength and different ways that you condition your weight training and improve your longevity through strength training and through lean mass. We've also talked about cardio, how you can improve your VO2 max, how you can exercise your cardiopulmonary system and have increase your longevity through those mechanisms.
mhm.
Today, we're actually going to kind of move on to a topic that is kind of enhances both of those with
Mhm.
both balance and agility. So this can help with your mobility. This can be something that kind of optimizes both of the previous two, but then also has functions on its own. So Dr. Soleil, will you kick us off and kind of talk to us about some of your favorites and how
Yeah,
you like to incorporate this into your routines?
absolutely. So I love challenging my balance because it's something that a lot of us forget about, right? And so when
Mhm.
we start thinking about exercise or joyful movement or finding maybe a hobby or a sports
Yeah.
team we can join, not a lot of us are thinking about the balance part, the neurological system, and how that contributes to our overall health. So, one of the common ways that I love kind of challenging this is a yoga class, right? A lot of people take in yoga and then sometimes they forget how like, oh, I really can't stand on one foot for very long with the other foot
Yeah.
extended, and like I thought I was okay until we start challenging, right? That balance aspect. What's interesting about balance is that there's different components in our body that play into our sense of balance. And one of that is vision. So what we see around the room and the world, making sure that everything's kind of in alignment tells the brain, hey, you're steady, you're balanced, everything's good. Another portion is actually the inner ear, right? And so sometimes when people have vertigo or crystals or things like that, they can suddenly feel like the world around them is spinning or kind of out of balance. And then they themselves feel like, oh, I'm losing balance, and they might not even be moving. And a
Yeah.
third is the cerebellum. So in the back portion of the brain helps all of the nerves kind of come together and maintain balance and coordination. So, a couple of different things that are playing into what we are strengthening when we think of balance, right? Or exercises or activities that do that. So, yoga is a really common one I think a lot of people have heard of. Even in younger patients, when I start doing balance and agility test in my exam when you come to see me, they are very surprised, I think, when we get to the end. So it kind of starts off normal and I say, "Hey, let's walk across the exam room." And they go, "Okay, that's weird."
Hmm.
And then the walks get a little bit more difficult and I say, "Okay, can you do it standing on your toes only and on your heels? And can you do a tightrope walk, right? Heel to toe." Heel to toe sometimes is the first one that people are like, "Oh, I thought I would have been able to do that." And I was like, "Well, when's the last time you did that?"
Yeah.
When I was 7?
Never. Yeah.
Like, yeah, like, what? When I was walking on a log? Like, whenever.
Yeah.
So, even our younger patients in teenage and 20s, we sometimes see that if you're not constantly challenging this
Mhm.
aspect of our wellness, it can drop off and you can lose
Yeah.
it. And then someone challenges you to say, "Hey, walk in a straight line, touch your, heel to your toes every single time." And it's not even a sobriety test, it's a pure agility balance. Like, can you do that without falling over? Then it can get a little bit more advanced and we're talking, um if we're sticking with yoga, is can I stand on one leg or foot and go into a tree pose with my other leg kind of tucked up in me, and now everything's on that one leg, right? So now I really have to center that core balance and make sure I'm not falling, right, etc. We have seen that as we improve these aspects of our health, that so many other things improve. Not only um muscle strength, right? Because it takes a lot more muscle strength to hold all your entire body balanced on one leg, but um muscle strength, agility, and balance, which is all helping us be more stable on our feet. And if we are more stable, we are less likely to fall. If we do not fall, we are less likely to hurt ourselves, right? So
Yeah,
it's all a, can I be as well and stable and balanced and right? I have all my muscle strength, I have all my bone strength, and I have everything, and I can prevent myself from falling and hurting myself. That's going to be a key aspect, right? So,
absolutely. Even like when we have been talking about hiking and you and I are both right now training for Chicago and in our
mhm,
running. So there are so many research studies that talk about how like our proprioception. So let me define the word proprioception. So proprioception is your body's sensation of where you are in space. And so
mhm,
what that means is like if you feel like you're starting to fall over, the like reflexes that you have that automatically jump in and maintain that balance, improving that system or practicing that whole system enables
mhm.
you to um, catch yourself faster and or be better at determining exactly how you need to catch yourself so that it's
Right.
not just straight reflex, it's actually a learned pathway. And so by practicing some of the things, you're less likely to get injured when you're hiking and when you're running or whatever activity that you like to do, be it dance, etc. You're less
Yeah.
likely to accidentally roll an ankle because your muscles are more in tuned to quickly jumping in and helping each other, not just as a reflex but actually as like a planned and learned system. So
Yes.
this is like great that you're talking about. I think that's fantastic.
Yes, and I think it, like I said, I think a lot of people forget about it, right? Because it's
Yeah.
like sometimes thrown into, right, hiking
Yeah.
and dancing and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
if we can really go in and start challenging ourselves, we're going to find that we might not be as optimized as we think. Because when I
Yeah.
started doing it, I was like, oh, for sure I can do that. And then I'm like wobbling and I'm like,
Yeah.
apparently I can't.
Yeah.
So it's really of it's okay no matter where you're at.
Right.
It's never too late to start, right? So, never too late to start yoga. I love Tai Chi. So, Tai Chi is a slow movement exercise that also incorporates balance and muscle strength, but it's very nice and slow and can always be changed and made to accommodate any movement issues that you might be having, right? If someone is in a wheelchair, we can move Tai Chi around that. If someone is using a cane, we can do that, right? There's so many different changes to that aspect. What's interesting about both yoga and Tai Chi is that there's lots of medical studies showing improved not only health, but mental health, like mental wellness,
Mm, yeah.
and um, improvement in decrease in falls, which we've already mentioned, as well as um, nope, I've lost that. So I'm going to cut this out.
I
So
was
I'm
like, I
like,
was gonna try to help you, but I don't
right?
know.
And I was like, I literally just read this and I'm like, no, I don't know. So if I think about it, I'll return. But
Either way, I think we can both agree that it is like super, super helpful to other forms of exercise and then also just longevity because we know
true.
that if you maybe this doesn't really impact people our age, but definitely as we get older, um, having a fall is one of the number one triggers for hospitalization in the elderly, which
Mhm.
then once you have an elderly person that's hospitalized, they can end up with pneumonia and end up with hospital acquired infections, and then the chance of them, I'm going to say this likely, try to figure out how to say this politely, uh, the chance of them being able to be discharged, if you get my drift, is low. So oftentimes, sometimes when the elderly patient population ends up in the hospital, they may never get to go home again,
Right.
either because they've passed on or end up in a nursing home after that. And so it's a significant contributor to decreasing, life, not just lifespan and life expectancy, but your quality of life as well. So
Absolutely.
anyway, it's one of those things that kind of like how we talk about both with strength training with VO2 max, that as you age, you are going to incrementally decrease it the rest of your life. And
Mhm,
so the highest or the most optimized you can be when you're young and in your 30s
mhm.
increases your runway that you have, so to speak, before that impacts your life negatively. So the
Yes.
more optimized and the more you can focus on improving your balance as a young person,
Mhm.
not only is that going to increase your lifespan, but that can help you age more gracefully.
Yes, absolutely. So, two ways that I love challenging myself to see how we can all do right now, right, as you're listening, is standing up and kind of your feet are kind of shoulder width apart and you kind of root yourself to the ground. But then I want you to put your hands in front of you, all the way extended, palms to the ceiling. And then you're going to close your eyes and then you're going to go up on your toes and see if you can hold it there for 10 seconds. That is very challenging, right? And so
Yes.
even young people have difficulty with that
Struggle.
because if we think about all the different aspects I talked about earlier of contributing to our sense of balance, I've now removed your vision. Your eyes are closed. I have now changed your sense of core basically balance and where you're at because now your arms are extended, your palms are to the ceiling, you're on your toes, and you're totally kind of off. And you really have to concentrate for your brain to pick up all those synapses and say, no, 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 everyone contribute. We all have to be balanced before we fall
Yeah.
over.
Yeah.
Now, when I first start, I do this by a chair or something that's like close because if I feel like, oh, I'm going to fall, I want something there.
Yeah.
But if you feel like you can do that right off the bat and you're not feeling like you're falling or tipping, you're doing great. Keep going. You know what I mean? Keep doing
Yeah.
what you're doing because you're doing excellent. Another way is getting out of a chair unassisted, walking about 10 feet or about 3 meters, turning around 180 degrees, walking back to the chair, and sitting down unassisted. If you can do that, that is called a timed get up and go. And if you can do that under 10 seconds, you're doing great. That's the goal. Keep going. I will tell you that as we age, naturally, that time becomes longer. So if you start doing that now and you start doing your balance, just like you said, you give yourself that longer runway. Not only are you optimizing your health and wellness, but you're preventing something, right, happening in the future. It's also, it just dawned on me, the third thing that the studies have proven, I knew it would come back, is helping with uh, brain deterioration such as
Mhm.
dementia, Parkinson's, right? Walking movement
Absolutely.
disorders, etc. Because if we continue challenging our brain to make those new synapses and make those new connections and really tell our brain, hey, we're still using you and we still really need to keep these things together, it really prevents the brain from kind of turning off and being like, you never do anything new. You never challenge
Yeah.
me. Not, you know what I mean? Like, why would I need to do that? So, um, fantastic balance movement with preventing dementia and Alzheimer's, which is huge because I know a lot of people are worried as they're seeing some of their maybe their mothers, grandmothers, grandparents, older generations. They look around to their neighbor and they go, wow, they've really declined in the last 5 years that we've been living
Yeah.
together. And they start getting worried about themselves. So these are
Yeah.
little things that we can add that can really contribute to brain health and mental well-being and
Yeah.
strength in general and just all the things.
Awesome.
So,
Awesome. So you talked about like some metrics that we can use to kind of judge where we are, such as holding your hands out and with your eyes closed and the get up and go test. So say someone has done these and they are not where they want to be. What are some ways that you can like start doing this? Like you talked about yoga, doing yoga, and absolutely that's awesome. But say I don't say I feel insecure about going to a class, or I don't want to spend the money, or maybe I live somewhere that doesn't have like a yoga studio around, and I don't want to,
yeah,
drive to the next city over. What are some ways
yeah,
that I can work on this?
absolutely. So, if we still like the idea of yoga and Tai Chi, I actually started teaching myself yoga when I didn't have access to a yoga studio. Like, there was no one to teach
Awesome.
me. So, I did it at home watching my computer screen, watching someone else do it on a DVD. And then I was like, I hope I'm doing this right. And I'd like go down in a balance and then I'd stand up in warrior pose. And I'm like, yeah, I think this looks right. Right. And you
Yeah.
just keep doing it. It doesn't have to be perfect. Right. Especially if you're worried about what other people might perceive you like, right? Of like, oh, I don't want to be around others while I exercise or do these movements until I feel more comfortable. Totally fine, right? I did it in my own living room.
Same. Yeah.
Other things I love is kind of doing maybe some balance exercises next to a chair. I love having a chair right there because if you ever feel unsteady, you have something to hold on to and grab before you fall all the way down, right? So we're wanting to also prevent the bad things from happening. So if I'm doing anything like I start trying to challenge myself standing on one leg, right? And then I say, okay, can I do this for 5 seconds just right here without nothing, without anything here? And I'm doing great. Perfect. Can I do it a little bit more? Can I do it on my non-dominant leg? Can I do it with my eyes closed? Can I start doing right? Can I get out of this chair without use of arms, totally up, and I just use all my legs? Talk about leg strength, right?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
basically a squat, but you have
Yeah.
the assistance of the chair. So
Right.
we can start no matter where you're at and your mobility issues, we can start where you're at, and we just got to figure it out, right?
Yeah. Awesome.
So I love, yeah,
Fantastic.
balance exercises.
Yeah. You talked about with
YouTube,
videos,
yeah.
obviously, of course, there's always available to rent at your local library, but then also there's also a shit ton of stuff on YouTube. So if that speaks to you, then that's also a really, really great resource if you want to try it out and see how you do and see how you enjoy it
Mhm.
before investing in actually purchasing a DVD or joining a yoga studio, etc.
Absolutely. I love my library has them because I know you mentioned that. Libraries are free, right? Just go to your local library and rent all of the exercise DVDs or, see, and sometimes they'll even, if you don't have a player at home, they'll hook you up. Say, okay, rent both of these, right? Um, Fabulous. I love YouTube. I love all of the options. There's a lot of options now that we used to not have, which is really
Yeah.
nice. And so people that maybe are even living in rural, out there by themselves, there are no studios. They still
Yeah.
have options. How can I do this? How can I
Yeah.
train myself? How can I make sure I'm doing great? Right.
Yeah, along the line of YouTube, there's also a bunch of apps that are really fantastic. In fact, there's this guy, I can't remember his name, but he's like a old WWE fighter. He's like a million years old and he looks it. But he started a yoga app and it's like the most unlikely of
I know. It's
persons.
like, oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. It's called like DDAV. No, I'm thinking of the medicine for let's see, what is it? DDP yoga or something like that. Yeah, it is DDP yoga.
Hmm.
Anyway, um, but I can't remember what's his name. He's not Hulk Hogan, but it's somebody like that.
Hmm.
Maybe it is Hulk Hogan. I don't know. But anyway, he has a really, really popular yoga app, and he's like the most unlikely person you would ever think that would be doing
Into
yoga. But
yoga. Yeah.
yeah, but like he spent 50 years like brutalizing his body, and now he's like
Mhm.
doing yoga and like he's like, I feel better than I did when I was 30. So
Yes,
anyway,
yes. And
yeah.
it's amazing how much yoga can help with, right? Like all the way
Ah,
from chronic pain to like, oh
yeah.
my gosh, I had so many surgeries on my back to I'm
Yeah,
having balance issues to I just,
absolutely.
you know what I mean? Like it's
Yeah,
it's fantastic
yeah.
and it's really nice.
Chronic
There's different
pain.
types
Yeah,
of yoga. So if you haven't found one, keep exploring because like, I mean, I can't even do half the yogas that I've been learning about, right? Like there's hot
yeah,
room yoga, not for
yeah,
me. I am not
yeah,
a hot girl. Like I moved all the way north because to get away from the heat. But there are people that are willingly going into these like ovens and then doing yoga. So if you love that, you're getting two things in one, which is yoga and sauna, which is fantastic. So
yeah.
all more power to you. But yeah, so when we're thinking about exercise and finding your joyful movement that you really enjoy, I don't want us to forget about balance, right? Balance, agility, kind of that third aspect because you're already taking care of everything else. Throw that in. What's nice is that if you start thinking about balance, you can find ways that your other exercises can contribute, right? And help you with that. But that's all I have for today. So we'll see you guys
Awesome.
later.
Wonderful.